Welcome to the Athena Wellness Podcast, the show that invites you to take a seat around the community fire and listen to stories that inspire. I'm your host, Kathy Robinson, author, coach, and founder of Athena Wellness, a company that's dedicated to supporting you on your journey to live more wholeheartedly. Hello and welcome. Thanks so much for joining me. As a listener of this podcast, you know I love experimenting with different wellness protocols and then sharing the results. For the last few years, I've been using the ProLon program, which is a 5-day meal program that's fast mimicking. That means the food combination was designed so the body's cells believe that they're not being fed, shifting the body into fasting mode so you reap the benefits of a water fast while still eating a limited amount of food. This allows for cellular repair and regeneration throughout the program, along with decreased inflammation and fat loss, especially visceral fat in the belly area. I wanted to share this process, but since I'm a wellness coach and not a nutrition coach, I've invited one of the country's most well-known health coaches and speakers to join me today. Audrey Zona is an integrative health and nutrition coach specializing in the psychology of eating. As you'll soon hear, she's a lifelong advocate of clean eating and mentors her clients to make empowered food choices, which transforms their nutritional habits. Audrey is also a ProLon coach, guiding and helping those who are completing the 5-day program. Here's what we cover: the importance of having a healthy relationship with our weight, an overview of the ProLon Fasting Mimicking Program, the benefits of fasting with food, the link between cellular regeneration and anti-aging, and advice for those who have been struggling with their weight. I've put links to Audrey's website and socials in the show notes so you can find out more about her and her offerings. Also in the show notes, there's a special offer for our listeners for 25% off of your ProLon box, and I hope you feel inspired to check it out. And now on to the show. I'm sure you'll find this conversation with Audrey helpful and insightful. Audrey, welcome to the Athena Wellness Podcast. Thank you so much for being here today.
And thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Wonderful. So please tell us a bit about who you are and what you do.
My name is Audrey Zona. I'm an integrative health coach, and I specialize in the psychology of eating and healthy, sustainable weight loss. I have a coaching practice that is now virtual. Used to be in person and virtual, but now we've gone completely virtual. And in addition to coaching one-on-one clients, I also run larger programs online for weight loss, women's weight loss programs. They're 8-week-long programs. And I also am a coach and spokesperson for ProLon, the Fasting Mimicking Program. So I'm a busy lady helping people to get well, to lose weight, and to be the best versions of themselves, truly.
That's a wonderful job description, Audrey. So tell us how you came to do the work that you do.
So I come to the work with an interesting story. This is not what I had planned on. I've had a number of different careers, but I'm going to go back a little bit. As a child, I was a very overweight little girl. And just to give you some context, I was 9 years old. My parents decided to send me to a diet camp because back then we really didn't have things like Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig or really anything that was healthy in terms of weight loss. So we were into summer camps, and my parents decided to send me to a sleepaway camp where I would learn how to eat healthy and to move my body. And at 9, I lost 35 pounds in 8 weeks over the summer, which was pretty tremendous. I was a young little person, but just gives you some idea as to how overweight I was. So I come from a long line of women that love food and are cooks. And my parents were quite concerned that I possibly had the genetics to be, quite overweight. So they wanted to expose me to something. And every day I thank God that they gave me that opportunity. I ended up going back to that camp 2 more times. And it's interesting that even at a very young age, I showed quite a desire and interest in healthy living and movement and exercise. I just sort of fell in love with the whole wellness arena, and it became my life's work. So, although I had many other careers through the years, my interest in nutrition and wellness and even like mindset work was always running background in my life. And if you were to fast forward, when I had my son, he ended up having some issues, some auditory processing issues as a young boy. And I went on a quest to help him. And I really kind of ran into the nutritional world because so many of his issues really were helped with the right foods and staying away from dyes and processed foods and gluten and dairy and things of that nature. So once again, the nutrition really kind of entered into my world in a different capacity, but was meant to be. Fast forward many years, although I had other jobs, I was mentoring a lot of people. I was giving them food plans. I just was so ingrained in the world of nutrition. And then a local functional medicine doctor approached me and asked for me to coach his patients. And that's really when my business was born. And I remember saying to him, Doc, I didn't go to school for this. And he said, it doesn't matter. Your life has been your schooling. And all you need to do is be you. And I know you're going to be a success. So I jumped headfirst because I knew that that was always my calling and my passion, and began working with his patients, taking Whole Foods shopping bags full of groceries to their homes. This is going back 8 years ago. And I was helping them to live a gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free life, helping them to change their lifestyle and really open their eyes to what, the relationship with food and helping them with their supplements. It was like really, I was like almost like a concierge wellness coach. And so my business was born. And it's been 8 years of just really amazing work, helping so many men and women to change their lifestyle for the better, getting rid of the processed foods, getting rid of the unhealthy stuff, including, people in their lives and toxic situations. And so I always say that the weight we carry, the extra weight that's on our bodies, is a symptom of something so much larger and more profound. So I get to the root cause of what's going on with these individuals. It's not just because we all like to eat yummy food. There's always many layers to why we do what we do and how we navigate with food. So that's been my little journey. And I was lucky enough over a year ago to be connected with ProLon. And I love, love, love the ProLon Fast. I think it's incredible. And we're seeing so many wonderful results, not only weight loss, but really reversing some blood work and people really truly getting very, very healthy from the inside out. And so I coach for the company and speak on their behalf as well. So it's been a wonderful journey.
That is quite an arc. And we are going to get into ProLon, but I'm still, when you were telling your story, I'm just envisioning this 9-year-old. And first of all, congrats to your parents for having the foresight to say, you know what, there's something that maybe we can't offer you, to be able to teach you. And congrats to you for embracing that. I mean, you went back twice. So I'm guessing that this was a good experience. And I'm wondering what it was like for that 9-year-old to come back, transform that first summer. 35 pounds for a 9-year-old is quite a bit. What was that like? And then was that the fuel that had you continue down this path?
Yeah. So it's interesting that at 9, I had lost the 35 pounds, but didn't quite understand how to maintain that weight loss. I don't believe I had really the head at 9, your brain is not fully, your brain isn't fully formed until you're around 22, right? So I had to do a lot of work over those next couple of years to really understand my hunger, my food choices. I'm a young girl. I'm going out, to friends' homes and eating their, junk that's in their homes. So I had to really figure that out. And it did take a couple of years. But Kathy, I really believe that I was born to be doing this work. And we all have this inner compass, this inner gut, this inner voice that guides us. And now I know so much, and I'm extremely intuitive, and I've really worked on my craft. And I look back on those years and recognize that I kept getting pulled back, like, going back to the camp for a few years. I kept getting pulled to somebody needing help with their food plan, or someone calling me, what's the healthiest X, Y, and Z for me to buy? Or where do I go? Where's the best gym? Where's the best trainer? Who's the best healer? All of those things. And I kept getting pulled back. And that was my gut that just kept saying, like, that's what you need to be doing. That's what you need to be doing. And finally, 8 years ago, it really just like exploded. And I had no choice but to just listen to that inner voice that said, you need to be helping people. You must. This is why you're here, truly. So it was such an interest how it evolved, from 9 to being, in my 40s. And how did that happen? I kept listening. I just kept listening and following my gut intuition. And I think always knew that somehow I would end up in this wellness arena, helping so many people and being able to take my experience through sugar addiction, food addiction, hating my body, loving my body, dieting, all the crazy things that we've done through the years, and taking that and packaging it up in a way that I can help thousands of people.
Mm. And I think it's the empathy too. I mean, you really know when people are struggling, you have that innate sense of what that was like, which I'm sure has informed your practice and how you help people.
Without a doubt. Absolutely. My clients might cry on the phone, and I'm there, I'm right there with them. I really do. And I believe that's what sets me apart, is that I am so empathic, and I get it, and I hold their hand, and I assure them that they're going to make this happen. It's, and I'm there cheering them on.
Mm-hmm. I think what I've found is that the added significance this takes as we get older. And so I'm wondering if you can speak to the importance of having a healthy relationship with weight as we get older and how that impacts our longevity.
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, we know that a healthy weight as we age is extremely important to prevent disease. And diseased state at the root comes from inflammation in the body. So when you think about, well, what causes inflammation? There are so many things, from stress to gut imbalance, the foods that we are ingesting, unfortunately, all the toxins that we breathe in, the things that are sprayed on our fruits and vegetables, things that are injected into meats. This is all causes inflammation in the body. And what's so interesting about fasting is that it truly helps to reduce that inflammation. And fasting, in addition to reducing inflammation, puts that body into what we call autophagy. And we can get into that more in a moment. But basically, it's a cleanup of the cells. It's a renewal of those cells deep within you. It's a cellular rejuvenation is what it is. That, in essence, is what helps to prolong your life, but in a healthy way. It's one thing to live long, but you don't want to live long and ill. So fasting helps you to live long and well as reducing inflammation in other ways, day to day, and just your choices around food, and making sure you're having enough of all those foods that promote wellness, the fruits and vegetables and the lean proteins and the healthy fats, and basically staying away from the processed foods, the things that have all the chemicals and the hydrogenated oils, the things that are very inflammatory on the body. But in terms of relationship with your body and aging well, I always say that we all have stuff around our bodies, right? And I always encourage my clients and I have a more of an aging population in terms of my clients. We have to embrace where we are. We're not 20 anymore. We need to embrace our bodies where they're at and just love yourself up the most that you can for what you have, right? We have all been given gifts, and maybe I don't love my thighs or I don't love my belly or whatever that is. But if we can just feed ourselves well enough every day, give ourselves enough nutrition, and do as many healthy hacks as we can day to day, we're just upping our chances of living long and living well and healthy.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. And I think it is this balance, right? And this, if we can be grateful for the things that we do have rather than lamenting the things that we don't have anymore,
right,
that I think sets us up for some success as we age. So you've mentioned the term ProLon twice now. Can you talk a little bit about the Fast Mimicking Program and what ProLon is?
Yes, absolutely. So ProLon was founded by Dr. Walter Longo with 20 years of research and development, and $36 million went into really funding and creating this incredible program. So what is ProLon? It's a fasting mimicking program. And what is so interesting is that you're actually mimicking a 5-day water fast, but you are eating and nourishing your body. So the phrase we often use is you're fasting while feeding. So normally during a 5-day water fast, not only is it so hard to really comply with, but it can be very dangerous. People end up fainting, they have problems with kidney stones, blood pressure drops, all of those different symptoms will often happen, but there's such benefit to a prolonged fast. So the doctor, being a longevity expert, said many, many years ago, there has to be a way that we can feed the body, not tap into the food sensing system, and the body actually thinks it's in a fasted state. And that's exactly what he's done. So we have what we call food sensing systems, and there's a certain amount of food, micro and macronutrients that the body can ingest. But when you keep it at a certain point, the body just doesn't think it's getting any food. So that's what ProLon is. So it's a 5-day program. Day 1, you get a little bit more food. It's around 1,100 calories. Day 2 through 5 drops to 700 to 800 calories per day. So you get a combination of soups, crackers, olives, bars, teas, and supplements. And the body does go into the state of autophagy, like I had mentioned before. That is what happens when you go on a prolonged fast. And autophagy is when the body has a deep cellular cleanup, a deep cellular rejuvenation. It gets rid of all the worn out cells. And that's what we really want to clean up. And that's what helps us to live longer without disease. Basically, in a nutshell, you have 5 days of eating some food. It's not a ton, but it's pretty nourishing and quite delicious, if I say so myself. Yet the body thinks it's in a 5-day water fast. And we've done during the clinical trials many, many tests to see how the body is reacting, and there is no glucose spike. There is no release of insulin. It truly does mimic a water fast. So it's pretty ingenious. And the other interesting thing that is in the ProLon kit is a little bottle called the L drink that helps to feed the muscle in the body so that while you're in a fasted state, you don't lose any lean body mass. And that's an important component that you don't get when you're on a water fast. So individuals who are actually checking their weight and body fat and muscle mass throughout the fast will notice that they never lose any muscle. They're only losing body fat, and mainly around the belly. It really does target that visceral belly fat.
Mm-hmm. And I can attest to this. I mean, I've done this 13 times over the last couple of years. And I'll tell you, the image that comes to mind is like whenever you buy a product from Apple, it's beautifully packaged, and it has that kind of a feel. Like it almost feels, it doesn't feel like it's this thing we're doing so much as it is this luxury that you're giving yourself. Has that been your
Yes.
experience?
Well, it's funny because I always tell my program participants that they're giving themselves a gift of health every time they do ProLon.
Yeah.
And, I never really thought about the packaging so much. I always attribute it to just the wellness that they are offering their bodies by going on the 5-day fast. But the truth is, the packaging is beautiful and it really does feel exclusive and very high end. So I think it has that air to it, and people do get excited about the product. I mean, who doesn't love something that's visually beautiful, right?
Exactly. It's visually beautiful. It tastes really good. And also, I think it's this relief that for the next 5 days, this is everything that I need. And so there's that psychological relief too, right?
Without a doubt. I can't tell you how many times I hear from people, I know I can't stay on ProLon forever, but I just love that I don't have to think about what I'm eating for 5 days. Do you have any ideas for me? Can I do so? Like, what else can I do afterwards? Because I just don't want to think. And that's, Kathy, that's truly, I think, the biggest issue for so many people trying to eat healthy and create this healthy lifestyle is we're busy. No one wants to be spending hours in the kitchen prepping and preparing, and no one has the headspace to think every day, what am I going to have? So it's really a nice thing when you can dive into a program like ProLon, and for 5 days, you don't have to think about it. So I always encourage my gals to find something. Obviously, you can't stay on ProLon all the time. We only recommend it every 25 days for 3 or 4 rounds in a row, which I can talk more about, but find some sort of either a meal delivery service, or there's so many local chefs possibly where you live that can do some meal prep for you. Figure out a way to get the healthy food in the house, because if you know you're not going to spend time in the kitchen, you have to find another way to make it work for you. Otherwise, you're grabbing all the wrong things.
Yeah.
So that's a big piece of the puzzle.
And then just to be clear for our listeners, on a typical day, there's really a breakfast bar, some soups, and some snacks is kind of the...
Yes. So every day you get 2 soups, and you can really move the food around as you wish. The box comes with a card, a suggestion card for each day, and a breakfast, lunch, dinner idea, and where to have your supplements. But there are many people that like to have soup in the morning, so they can have it more for breakfast. The L bar is considered the breakfast bar, but once again, a lot of people will cut it into pieces, maybe have a little in the morning, save some for the afternoon, or even some for after dinner. So because there isn't a lot of food, you're able to, I always say, spread it out, save it, really make the most of the food that you're given and figure out what works best for you. If you're really hungry later in the day, try to delay the breakfast and try to start your day around noon. So I always encourage you to really feel into what schedule works best for you, but you can move the food around as you wish within the day. You're just not allowed to save anything for another day. So, some people will say, I just wasn't hungry for the second soup. I don't know how that's possible, but listen, some people just don't eat a lot, but we really do want for you to be nourished as best as possible. So we always encourage eating everything that's in the box for that day.
And it's so funny. You made me smile when you said to cut it up, because here's this breakfast bar. And I try to delay until 1:00 in the afternoon, but I do cut it into like 8 pieces where normally you would just, it would be gone in 2 bites.
Yes.
There's this almost like this ceremonial feel when you do sit down to eat, which I think is part of that as well too. How am I feeling when I'm eating this? What is it doing to my body? How is it nourishing me? Do you find that?
Oh, absolutely. It is such an important thing. And I always share with my group to slow down, to pay attention. Even as silly as this sounds, set the table, light a candle, put on some nice music, take a few deep breaths before you start to eat, even if it is the L bar that's cut up into 8 pieces. Slowing down is what we all need as a society. We need to slow down. Most of us are eating standing at the kitchen counter, or we're, eating as we're running into the car to drive our children somewhere. So I love that ProLon, as much as it is an internal cleanup, it's also an emotional one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a wonderful time to reflect on your habits, your daily behaviors, your thoughts around food. How fast are you eating? Are you even hungry when you're eating? Really paying attention to your body. And so use this 5 days as a time to really journal and to reflect and to question yourself a little bit. How often are you just walking into your pantry because you're bored and you end up eating an extra few hundred calories because you've got nothing else to do? So really taking your time to slow down during ProLon, and then hopefully learning something and bringing that into your day to day once you're finished and transitioning into real food, I think is very eye-opening. Creating some awareness around what's going on is super important.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it can't be overemphasized that. I mean, I felt amazing when I was done, but there was so much learning. And every time you go through, it's almost like you go deeper into the process, which I think is really fascinating.
Absolutely. I love hearing the testimonials from people that, they never realized that they were a stress eater or an emotional eater. They just started to connect the dots for themselves, and it's really changed their life. So here, this 5-day fast, there's tremendous science around it. We're going to be hearing so much more over the next few years as to the benefits from a really deep health perspective. But I love the emotional cleanse and the awareness that it brings and the shift in relationship with food. I think that's really one of the most beautiful pieces of this that come out of the 5-day fast.
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit about who it's for, who benefits, and then who it's not for, who would not benefit from this?
So we recommend that no one under the age of 18 do the fast. We also recommend that no one over 70 do the fast. But however, I have had many, many, many participants in their 70s have tremendous success. We just say that if you are in your 70s and choose to do the fast, to please just make sure it's okay with your doctor. But really, for anyone else in between the ages of 19 and 70, it would not be recommended if you're pregnant. It would not be recommended if you're nursing. It would also not be recommended if you have any history of an eating disorder. Other than that, it's really great for everyone. I've had many, many women in their 20s do it. The 20-somethings love it. It's probably one of our largest segments of the population, are between like 25 and 30. It's really popular. And I personally have, on my coaching calls, I seem to have mostly women I find in the menopausal years. So I find that women in menopause are having a really tough time with weight gain, especially around the middle, due to the rise of insulin when estrogen is dropping. And ProLon seems to help with that tremendously. And it also helps with women. And for whatever reason, we love to have our sweets and our mindless snacking when we're in that age bracket. So I have a lot of clients in the menopausal years that are having tremendous success with ProLon. But aside from the few people that I mentioned, whether it's pregnant, nursing, eating disorder, or too young or too old, really it's for anybody else.
And another thing I was really impressed with was the level of support that ProLon gives their customers. So can you talk a bit about what's included when you do buy a package?
Absolutely. So there is a private Facebook group called Fastination that is extremely supportive. There's a few ProLon admins that help to answer questions. The coaches, one of them will answer questions. And the group themselves are extremely active and extremely excited. And there's a lot of conversation amongst thousands of people that are doing ProLon, whether it's that at that particular time or weeks before or weeks later. There's a lot of activity in the Fastination group. In addition, there are coaching weeks being offered by ProLon, typically every other week, 2 to 3 times a month, depending upon the month. and there are three of us, myself, Cynthia, and Kristen, and we rotate weeks coaching. They are live Zoom calls every day at 11 a.m. Eastern time. The call is about a half hour to 45 minutes. And we are on every day talking about the fast. Basically, there's a prep day, there's the 5-day fast, and then there is a follow-up day. So for a week, we are on coaching, inspiring, answering questions, and really supporting everybody during that week fast. In addition, there you can also have a 10-minute call with another coach, not the three girls, but there's another set of coaches that handle 10-minute phone calls. So when you purchase ProLon, you get an email with a link to set up a private call one-on-one with a coach. And that seems to be extremely supportive as well. So there's a lot of ways that ProLon supports their users. And I think that's what really, really differentiates us from possibly other weight loss products out there that are on the market. But I have to say, this is not really marketed as a weight loss product. It's more about longevity and wellness. But so many people are using it for weight loss because we do achieve weight loss with ProLon, but it really was intended for longevity and cellular cleanup.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about that longer term then. So come to the end of 5 days, there's a day 6 where I know we need to be mindful as we re-enter the world of normal eating patterns. What happens longer term? What have been some of the changes that you've seen clients make?
So I do want to just mention that what is recommended by ProLon is to do the fast once a month with 25 days in between and doing it 3 to 4 months in a row. So during the clinical trials, that's what was done. And so it is recommended for optimal results, true optimal cellular cleanup and weight loss to do the 3 to 4 rounds. It does not have to be exactly 25 days. Some people will do 23 days or 30 days. That is what's recommended because that's what was done during the trials. But if your schedule doesn't allow for exactly 25 days, it's okay. I don't want anyone to think that it won't work if it's not 25 on the dot. What I noticed after those 3 to 4 rounds is not only weight loss, but a real shift in desires around sugar. Portions tend to be smaller, just not as hungry, increased energy, and a much better relationship with food. I mean, those are really the top things that I notice from client to client. I can't speak about claims in terms of reversal of any sort of disease, but I just can tell you that clinically within my own practice, I see my clients coming back with blood work results that are quite beautiful and significant change. So I do know that that's happening across the board with many, many of the participants because they share that information with me via email. They're so excited when their doctor reports that they're so much healthier after doing those 3 to 4 rounds. So I think what's most exciting to people doing ProLon for those few months in a row is really that they just don't view food in the same manner. They're slower, they're more intentional, they're more aware, and they're more awake and conscious, really is the best way to put it. There's such a deep awareness around the mindless eating, the stress eating, and the emotional eating. So that's what I notice a huge shift amongst everyone after doing those 3 to 4 rounds. And then it's recommended to do it once a quarter or as you desire. I mean, like, look at you have done it so many times. So I have a lot of clients that are doing it monthly under the care of a physician and myself, but they are doing it monthly because they have, specific goals in mind for themselves. So it's possible.
I think you learn to listen to your body because I did do the 4 months in a row and then it was every quarter. So I'm going back 3 years now.
Okay.
And then it turned into once every 4 months. And now I'm about once every 4 to 6 months. And I can almost feel the need of when it's time to do it again.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how your body becomes responsive. As you're listening to it, it's telling you
Oh, it does.
what it needs, which I think is fascinating.
It's just a matter of us slowing down enough and quieting enough that we can actually listen to what it's trying to tell us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've got one more question for you because I'm thinking about the listener who's been struggling with their weight. Maybe it's a lifelong challenge, or perhaps, as you just mentioned, they're facing it for the first time at midlife and not sure how to work with the weight that's happening as a result of menopause. What words of wisdom would you offer? How might they be able to get more in touch with their body and what it needs?
Yes. So I do believe, firstly, that it's very important to make sure that all operating systems internally are working at optimal level. Because especially as we age, what I find is that men and women, they're having symptoms and they're not feeling their best. And weight is just one of them, but they're not sleeping well and they have hormonal fluctuations and they're always bloated and they have just stuff going on that they know in their heart is not right. But we often will just say, well, I'm getting older and maybe this is just what happens, but it's really not the truth. So I will always recommend making sure that you are really getting checked out. And unfortunately, some of the regular GPs don't do the right kind of digging in my eyes. So whether that's maybe seeing a naturopath or a functional medicine doctor or an integrative doctor of some kind to do a little more digging to make sure that everything internally is in tip-top shape. That's number one. Because if things aren't working properly, no matter what you do with food or fasting, you just might not see the success. So making sure that your internal systems are working, number one. And then if that's all checked out and you're good to go, then it's really about looking at your day-to-day. What is your stress levels looking like? That's a very big piece of the puzzle. What are your sleep patterns looking like? What is your movement looking like? And how nutritious are the foods that you're eating day to day? Really taking stock in what is my diet, pizza, sandwiches, and a McDonald's egg sandwich? Or am I really getting a ton of fruits and vegetables and foods from the earth loaded with nutrients, lean proteins, the healthy fats? Am I eating out of a lot of boxes and bags? Interestingly enough, I speak to a lot of people that are drinking a ton of soda, whether that's even diet or real, juices, things that are so heavily loaded with sugar or artificial sweeteners like aspartame that will actually trigger the brain to want more sweet and to be hungrier. So really taking a good close look at what are you eating and drinking day to day. Are you getting enough water? It's one of the easiest, quickest hacks is start getting 80 to 100 ounces of water a day and watch your life change. So the water, the movement, the sleep, the de-stressing, are you doing any reflection work? Are you meditating? Are you journaling? What does your whole lifestyle look like? Oftentimes these women in this space of life, they feel lost. It's like what used to work 10 years ago, it's like that's not working anymore. So that's what I do. I help people to figure out what's not working. How do we pivot? How do we change? What new practices, new habits, new lifestyle hacks can we start really instituting day to day? So it's a combination. I wish I could say that it was all about food, but it's not. It really, really isn't. Food is just one piece of that puzzle.
Yeah. And I agree. It's a more holistic approach and it really is mind, body, and spirit. And because of that, interrelatedness, having a coach to work with really does make a big difference, speaking from one to another. But I'm sure that our listeners would be interested in getting in touch. So can you give us a sense of what they can find when they come to your website and where they can find you?
Yes, absolutely. It would be my pleasure to connect with any one of you. My website, I'm guessing you'll put that information
Absolutely.
in the show notes, livezohealthy.com. My Instagram is also very, very active. I give tons of information and recipes and ideas, so much stuff on my Instagram, and that's Zo_healthy. Please feel free to message me, whether it's through my website or on Instagram or even Facebook. It's just Audrey Zona on Facebook. And I really do offer a few different things in terms of working with me. You could either do one-on-one coaching where we meet like this on Zoom for a series of sessions. We meet, I like weekly as best as possible, for a few months where I really help the individual I dig in, I really figure out what's going on in their life. How can I help them to achieve whatever goals they're looking to achieve? So that's the one-on-one coaching. And then I offer group programs 3 times a year. I actually just started my April program. I run April, I run September, and again in January. And that's an online program where you receive modules weekly, teaching modules, live coaching calls with me, private Facebook group, tons of special guests I have on my calls. It's a very, very thorough mind, body, spirit, holistic approach to weight loss and wellness. And so right now, those are the 2 different opportunities to work with me. I shouldn't say that. I have a third, which is a self-led program. So you don't really have live access to me, but you have the teaching modules, and that's just another kind of way to dip your toe in the water working with me. So I basically have 3 different products or ways that you can work with me and change your life.
Wonderful. Well, I'm inspired. I'm actually going to start ProLon next month. We're at the end of April, so I'll be doing it in May. And I can't thank you enough for spending some time. I think this is going to be really helpful and eye-opening that there are ways of working with, sometimes I think people feel like they're stuck. And really your message is it doesn't matter where you are, that we can find ways to get this moving again and to get you feeling better, no matter your age or what your history has been.
Absolutely. I've had some of the most challenging cases and they're unstuck now. So I will help you to get unstuck.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Audrey. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I know there are many ways you can spend your time. Thank you for choosing to spend it with me. Until our paths cross again, be kind to yourself and show your warrior spirit some love. If you know anyone who could benefit from today's episode, please pass it on. And many thanks for supporting the show by subscribing and leaving a review. It means a lot, and it helps others find their way to our circle. If you'd like to access the show notes, have a question you'd like addressed on a future episode, or would like a transcript of this episode, visit www.athenawellness.com/podcast. Until next time, be well.